Well, hey friends, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast for women who want to find freedom in both their life and in their business. I own a multi-7-figure-a-year coaching business. I'm also a certified life coach. So I have the honor of helping thousands of women every single month make money in the online space and help them to get unstuck from whatever is holding them back, all without sacrificing their faith or their family. In this show, you're going to get the very best life and business advice, always with a healthy dose of Jesus. So buckle in, my friend. I'm so excited that you are here.
Well, hey friends, this is Jennifer. Welcome back to the podcast today. Okay, so we're going to do something a little fun and a little different today, okay? A little fun, a little different. I'm going to tell you a story. There's a story of a lovely lady. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story that has got some really, it's got some good takeaways for business, okay? You possibly know by now. Okay, so Jason and I live full-time in Kansas City. We have a home in Florida on the beach. It's called Boujee on the Beach. It's spelled B-O-J, or B-O-U-J, sorry. B-O-U-J-E-E. The J is for Jennifer and Jason. Yes, you can spell Boujee with a G, or you can spell it with a J. We spelled it with a J because Jennifer and Jason get it. Okay, so Boujee on the Beach is our home in Florida. Yes, it's on VRBO, on Airbnb. You can look it up on Instagram and click in the bio to get the link. Okay, so bought that last summer. This fall, for our 25th wedding anniversary, by the way, we bought a home in Arizona. So it's right outside of Scottsdale in a small town called Fountain Hills. And it will also be on Airbnb, VRBO, all the places. It's called Boujee in the Desert. So you can go look that up on Instagram. Okay, so we are knee deep in remodels for Boujee in the Desert. If you follow me on my Jennifer Allwood home Instagram page, you're seeing all the remodeling done there, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so in addition to the remodeling and the repainting and the wallpaper, we have to furnish, the house, right? And so it is a 5-bedroom, 3.5 bath. So it takes, quite a bit to furnish it. So I am trying to be resourceful, also a good steward with our finances, all the things. So I really want, I'm getting to a lot of really good points here. I really want a leather Chesterfield sofa in the house. And I want it to be like that cognac color. So it's orangey leather. Okay. Real leather, not real fake, but real leather. And I've found a couple. There's like a store called the Potato Barn. There's one in Mesa, Arizona. There's one in Scottsdale. There's several in that area. And so like Potato Barn has one that's 7 foot long and it's $6,000. That's without taxes or anything else. So it's $6,000 for this sofa that's not real huge. Okay. But it's the cognac color that I want. And, it's the tufted Chesterfield design, low arms, rolled arms. Okay. I love the whole thing. Right. So I've been looking at that and I've been going, $6,000 for a sofa. Like, come on, dude, that's a lot of money. So I'm on Facebook Marketplace a week or so ago and I'm like, whoa, what's this? We've got a listing for someone selling their cognac colored Chesterfield, but it's not like a 7 or 7.5 foot. It's a 9.5 foot long. That's right. Let me say that again. 9.5 foot long. And it's not brand new, but it is for sale. And it's $1,500, folks. And I'm like, winner, chicken dinner. Okay. I'm so excited. So I sent a picture of it to my friend Christy and she's like, run. And I'm like, I know. And so apparently it was a gift to the person who was selling it from somebody that they used to be dating and they're no longer dating. And it's from the Pottery Barn. And so I believe it was at least also a $6,000 sofa. Okay. So I'm super excited, right? So I start chatting back and forth with the person that is messaging with me on Facebook Marketplace. All right. So things got crazy, friends. Okay. Things got crazy. And I want to tell you what I learned through the process and like different business things that the Lord brought to the forefront of my mind as this entire transaction was taking place so that you can have some takeaways like I did on what not to do in business. What I learned from this sofa saga, what I learned to do in terms of how I treat people, what I learned not to do in terms of how I treat people,
what I learned to say, what not to say, all of the things. Okay. So this is going to be like a story time. It's Sofa Saga time. But I think that this is going to be super helpful. And I hope that you get some takeaways as well. Okay. All right. So found the sofa. It's on Facebook Marketplace. I asked about the sofa. That all really went great. And then we had to figure out, how do I get the sofa? Jason and I live in Kansas City full time. We do not have a vehicle yet down in the Phoenix area. The sofa's in Phoenix. We live about 30 to 45 minutes away from there in Fountain Hills. So how do we get it there? So I was like, okay, we're going back and forth, me and the gentleman that's selling the sofa, right? And so, should I give the gentleman that's selling the sofa, should I give him a name? Let me give him a fake name. Okay. Let's call him Bob. No shade to anybody here named Bob. I've got like 2 men that listen to my podcast. So, statistically speaking, probably they're not named Bob. So we're probably in good shape, but no shade to anybody named Bob. So we're just going to call him Bob. Okay. So Bob says, that him and his friends could at least get the sofa, down for me. But he said, you're going to have to go over a railing. And I'm like, wait, what? And so he's like, okay, so there's a railing and the sofa's so big, it's going to have to go over the railing. And I'm like, okay, this feels messy. Can you give me an address? So he gives me an address. So the good news is I was able to pull up the address and see what his apartment building looked like. Now, point for Bob, okay? Because at least he gave me the address and at least I could get a visual on said address. Here's what you can take away from that. Give visuals to your people, to your clients when you're trying to sell them something. If you are trying to sell them a course, give them a framework for the course. If you're trying to sell them, a coaching program, give them an idea of what the modules are going to look like. If you're trying to sell them a membership, like give them an idea. Because once I got an idea of like, okay, getting this sofa, like what do you mean there's a railing? Then I was like, okay, that's good. But he was like, but your people are going to have to come in. And he started sending me pictures from the inside of his house. And they're going to have to like kind of help us navigate it around this. Okay. So point for Team Jen, because I was like, wait, this is starting to sound kind of messy and chaotic. And that sounds like a whole lot of work. And so even though the sofa is a great price, it sounds like it's going to be super chaotic. And then, the pictures of like coming through his house, there was a lot of piles and so instantly I'm like, oh man, this feels like a red flag. Okay. So team red flag, team Jen. I was like, okay. It kind of, I'm going to have to ask a whole lot of people, because he said you're going to need 4 people to go into this person's home to help navigate it around a bunch of piles of things to get it up and over a railing. Okay. That did not sound like an easy process. Okay. So that was a point for team red flag, because you've got to make things easy for people. When you're talking to them about what you're selling, it has to be an easy process. It can't be send me a DM through Facebook Messenger and I'll send you a link to pay. And then when they get the link to pay, they can only pay in one way. And then they have to send, the birth certificate of their firstborn, as well as their blood type and vaccination status to you. I'm kidding. In order for, to get something. So like make it easy on people, keep it professional. Because the fact that it was starting to get chaotic and sound like a whole lot of work was a huge red flag for me. Okay. All right. So I'm like, okay, my contractor said that they will come pick up the sofa. So that should work fine. We set up, this was on a Wednesday, we're chatting back and forth, or a Tuesday, we're chatting back and forth. I said, I think my contractor can come on Friday. And he was like, okay, that's great. So then what happens is he comes back on Wednesday and he sends me a message and he says, hey, Jennifer, this is Bob speaking. I know that you said you want the sofa, but now I have somebody in Phoenix who's offering to give me $2,000 for it. So the price that he and I had agreed upon was $1,500. I didn't even try to negotiate it. And he says, it's going to be really hard for me to turn down that money. And I'm like, oh man. Okay. All right. So 1 point for team red flag, because instantly I think I'm about to get duped. Instantly I think that, am I getting scammed here? Is this actually true? And it felt like manipulation. So business tip, do not manipulate your people. Do not try to use the scarcity tactics in a way that makes them feel manipulated, especially if it's not true. Now, I don't know if it was true or not from Bob. I have no idea. But just me feeling manipulated felt yucky. Okay. So then second thing happens. I say, okay, no, I really do want it, Bob. I really do want the sofa. Please don't sell it to the lady that's willing to give you $500 more than that. What do you need me to do? So he wanted the payment in full, and he wanted the payment in only one way. He wanted it through Zelle. By the way, I never know. Is it Zelle or Zelly? Zelle or Zelly? I think it's Zelle. We're going to say Zelle. Send me a DM on Instagram if I'm wrong, but I think it's Zelle. Okay. So he wanted the payment all at once and he wanted it through Zelle. All right. I don't use Zelle. I use PayPal. I use Venmo. I use Facebook Messenger, which is attached to PayPal, which I really, really like, but I don't use Zelle. Okay. So here's the takeaway. Here's the business tip. Let people pay you in different ways. Make it easy on them to give you money. Okay. In retrospect, what Bob should have said is, I'm going to have you give me half the money now, Jennifer, and half when you actually come to pick it up. What he should have said is, sorry, I just muted myself for an awkward second because the dog started to growl at somebody outside. But he should have said, pay me now and half when you get it. Instead, he wanted it all up front. And it made me feel really uneasy. It planted the seed that this could be a scam. I also didn't love that I only could pay him in one way. So here's what I want your takeaway to be. Let people pay you with PayPal. Let them also pay you with credit card. Let them pay you with Cash App. The more options you have, the more people you're going to attract. Not everybody wants to pay for something, in one particular way. In addition, give people payment options. If it's a large ticket item, don't make them pay for it all in full. Sometimes the payment options is what is going to make it the easiest for somebody to wrap their head around and to say yes to what it is that you're selling. Okay. All right. So what did Jen do? Well, Jen paid Bob. Jen paid Bob in full through Zelle that night. And by Jen, I mean Jason. He paid because he has Zelle and I don't. So he got it paid. Okay. So I said, I paid you. Let me know if you got it. Bob says, I got it. And I'm like, okay, great. We set up the time for Friday morning at 8:00 that my contractor, Leo, and his brother, Octavio, were going to go pick it up. By the way, huge shout out to my contractors in Arizona right now. They are just doing an amazing job. And Ace Construction is their name. And I don't even know if they listen to podcasts. They probably don't even know I have a huge social media following or anything, but they're kicking butt. So they're like, we'll go get it for you. So then I don't hear from Bob at all the rest of the day on Wednesday. I don't hear from him Thursday, and it's now Friday morning. We're supposed to be, and by we, I mean they, Octavio and Leo are going to pick up the sofa for me at 8 a.m. Now, this is a drive for them too, right? And I didn't hear anything from Bob. And I'm like, okay, this is feeling scary. So it's about 7:30 or so in the morning. So I decide, you know what? Let me just reach out to him and make sure we're still on for today. So I'm like, hey, Bob, just want to make sure you're still good with us picking up the sofa. Crickets, crickets, crickets. So my contractor's literally en route. It's 10 till. Crickets, crickets. And I'm like, what is even happening? Okay. Business tip. When somebody purchases something with you, validate that purchase. Make sure you send out emails that you're like, you know what? We're so glad you're here. Here's when we're starting. Here's what you can expect. Because I wish that I had known, hey, that he was going to maybe just send me a message or something on Friday morning, but he didn't. So I was like, okay, am I still getting scammed? I don't know. Am I getting scammed? Curious. What do you think's happening right now? For you, podcast listener, am I about to get scammed, or did Bob come through with the sofa? Screenshot this, put it on Instagram. Let me know. Am I about to get scammed, or did Bob come through with the sofa? Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Here's what Bob came back with. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out right now. My friends were just in a car accident. And proceeds to tell me this big, long story about how four of his friends were in a car accident. They had his vehicle and he was in the back of an Uber headed to the scene of the accident. Okay, listen, then starts the inner turmoil for me. I'm like, holy smokes, am I getting scammed? This sounds like I'm getting scammed. And I'm like, what the heck? I mean, and all of a sudden I'm like, why did I spend the money? What did I do? All of the things. Listen, business tip. Okay. Cause this was another point for team red flag. If you ever have life happen, because sometimes life happens in business, please make sure that you just are in communication with your clients. Communication can go such a long way. Hey, this is what happened. And I'm going to get back to you at such and such a time. So that's what Bob said he would do. I'll get back with you at 4:30 today. Well, first he was like, I don't know when I can get back to you. And then he's like, okay, hang tight. I between 3 and 5, I should be home. And then he was like, I just don't even think I can be home today. And then I'm like, okay. And then I'm thinking to myself, I hope I never do this to people in business and make them feel a little bit panicky, because I had all sorts of compassion for the situation that Bob was in with his friends, if in fact it was true. But I also had already given him my money. I already got 4 people on the way to pick it up, and now everything feels wonky, right? And so then he comes back to me at 5:30 in the afternoon and says, I had my friends come over, different set of friends apparently than the ones that were in the car accident with his vehicle. And they took the sofa outside. It's behind a gate. Here's the code to get into the gate. It should be very secure. And I'm like, wait. Okay. It's 5:30 on a Friday. Nobody is going to want to still come pick it up at 5:30 on a Friday. By 5:30 on a Friday, everybody's gone from my house. They're not still working. They had already transitioned into family time. And so, this is another, point for team red flag, because I'm like, probably he knows that nobody can just like drop everything on a Friday evening and get 4 people to come. Listen, if you're in business, I need you to know, like, timing matters. I need you to know that your clients, like, know them well enough to know what their burdens are, what their time schedules are, when would be like, a good time for them, et cetera. Okay. And so, cause that was concerning, and I was like, crap. And so now he's got the sofa outside. So then I'm thinking, is somebody going to steal it? And, 1 point for Team Bob, because he's like, nobody will steal it. It's really heavy. It's in a gated area. And I'm like, okay. All right. So I said, can my guys come tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning and pick it up? He says, sure. Okay. Then I don't hear from him again. It's crickets again. So before, 8 o'clock in the morning, the next day, I start texting him, hey, they're on their way to get you. Is this okay? Nothing, you guys. And I'm like, what is even happening? Okay. So they get there, Leo and Octavio get there to pick up the sofa for me. And it is sitting outside, like in a covered area. They can see said sofa through the gate. So they use the code that Bob gave me. The code does not work, you guys. And all I can think of is he sold it to that lady in Phoenix for $500 more. She's going to be pulling up here with a truck at any moment. Okay. I don't hear from Bob. Bob, are you there? My guys are there. They can't get in. The code that you gave us to the door is wrong. Bob, are you there? They're there waiting to pick it up. They're literally can stick their arm through the fence to touch it, but you gave us the wrong door code. Okay. Biz tip. You can't have errors like that when you're making a business transaction. There's no room for that type of error. It has got to be a seamless process. When somebody gives you their credit card, they can't be getting the wrong stuff sent to them. They can't be getting, you just not knowing that they purchased something and not holding up your end of the deal. Like there's no room for error when there's been that sort of finances that have transacted. It just has to be. Okay. So lucky for us, some precious woman came out through the gate that my guys were needing to go into to get said sofa. So they were able to get in after waiting there for 20 minutes to get the sofa that I'd paid for, 5 days before that, 4 days before that, et cetera. So my guys are halfway to our new home in Arizona with said sofa. And then I finally hear from Bob, and Bob had overslept. Okay. God bless Bob. Bob said, I'm sorry that this transaction was so messy. And so 1 point for Bob for recognizing that it was very unprofessional and it was very messy. So here's what I want to end you with. If you have a business, don't be Bob. Okay. If you have a business, don't be Bob. Bob was so kind. He was precious. Him and I went back and forth a whole bunch at the beginning of this transaction, trying to figure out if he was a scammer or if I was a scammer. But Lord have mercy. And I know $1,500. It's not as though I was getting scammed out of $15,000, but still, $1,500 is $1,500. And it was time and effort and mental energy. So the business takeaway that I want to leave you with today is just to don't be Bob. Make sure you are professional. Make sure you are not giving your clients red flags all over the place. Make sure you're not just ghosting them. Make sure you're not making it super messy to work with you. Make it easy, friends. Keep it professional. Make it easy. Don't be making excuses. Own the mistakes that you're making, but make them right. Own your mistakes, but make them right. All right. Listen, I hope you enjoyed this podcast of my Sofa Saga. If you did, share this with someone, would you? Share it with somebody. Share it with your Instagram. Take a screenshot, post it. Don't be like Bob. I hope that, in fact, we just need to use that hashtag, don't be like Bob. And let me know that you learned something from this. Okay. All right, my friends. Can't wait to show you how this sofa looks, in Boujee in the Desert. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Friend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. I'm so honored that you come back for every episode and that you share the Jennifer Allwood Show with your friends and family. Every time I see you guys post about it on Instagram or Facebook or something, it just makes me do a little happy. So thank you. Make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you never want to miss an episode. So you can go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or any of the other podcasting places and subscribe each week so that every week you get the new episode when it releases. So just know that I love bringing you relevant content. I love bringing you great guests. And one of the ways you can help us here at Team Allwood is by leaving the podcast a review. So if you have just a second to do that, would you go over and leave a review for the Jennifer Allwood Show? Thank you again. You're amazing. I'm honored to be here. Until next week. Bye-bye.